So all those viral images have been, occupying people's minds and disturbing people all across the world. Are we really dealing with a terrorist air force? Is it really that simple that you suddenly capture all these aircraft and suddenly you become some kind of an air force? Joining me live, Sandeep Unithan of India Today magazine. Also with me is Air Marshal Padamjit Singh Ahluwalia, former air officer, commanding-in-chief of the Indian Air Force's sword arm, the Western Air Command, a veteran fighter pilot and a war hero. Air Marshal Ahluwalia, to you first, sir. I want you to clear people's doubts in a realistic way. We've got proof, visual evidence that the Taliban has, gotten access to all these helicopters, aircraft, drones, missiles, air assets, things that you're very familiar with, sir. Does this give them air power? Or is that a long journey ahead, sir? Sir, you're on mute.
Yes, Chef.
Yes.
You're absolutely right. It's a long journey ahead. It's not easy for you to be able to firstly train your pilots, make them accomplished, make them innovative, make them operational capable, but also very, very important to see that the aircraft are maintained, that all the systems are functioning. I'll give you a simple example. 5,000 Americans were able to keep the Taliban away by use of air power, basically. It was air power that ensured that the Taliban was not able to overcome the Afghan forces. And that is the importance of air power and the capability, provided it is utilized correctly. The Afghan Air Force hardly existed because the training of the pilots was apparently not up to the expectations. And furthermore, the Americans never made them independent or self-sufficient to take on difficult air operations. And therefore, it's going to be very difficult for the Taliban to firstly employ. Yes, you can employ the ex-Afghan Air Force pilots. They will be available to the Taliban. They will be able to support, but it will still take a long time for them. The question is, where is Taliban going to use this Air Force? I don't think it is going to be able to use it in the neighboring countries who are all very favorably inclined to the Taliban. This includes Pakistan, China, the East Asian countries, even to a certain extent Iran. So therefore, it is of no major consequence to India, I would say. But coming back to your point, it's not going to be easy for Taliban. It wasn't easy for the Afghan Air Force to sustain without the Americans. The contractors had all left. The logistics supply line is a very, very crucial element and component in sustaining air power. That's not going to be available.
Okay.
So it's going to be a long time. And very importantly,
yes,
it's the training of the technicians, importantly, the training of the pilots.
Yeah.
The capability, it's just not that...
Sandeep, I want to bring you in on that, because the Taliban are old hands. They would have, envisioned that this kind of possibility would be there, where they would inherit this vast fleet of aircraft and stuff. Do you think that they might have resources to actually make the long journey towards getting a credible, air capability? Because they have all these helicopters and aircraft right now. Do you think they will have some kind of access to training and maybe in some form or the other in the near or medium future have some kind of an air capability?
Well, absolutely, Shiv. And here's the dichotomy that, before the fall of Kabul, the Taliban had launched an assassination campaign against Afghan Air Force pilots. There were cases of half a dozen pilots that had been murdered by the Taliban precisely because they were so effective in flying their light utility helicopters, gunships, and aircraft. And now, once the Taliban have taken over inherited this entire fleet of the Afghan Air Force, they need those very pilots to, fly and maintain and service these aircraft. And we have given to understand a handful of Afghan pilots have literally fled with their machines into Uzbekistan, to escape from the Taliban. But like you mentioned, there are large numbers of aircraft that are still remaining And it stands to reason that in the days ahead, the Taliban will look at ways of operationalizing this fleet, whether it is from, taking the pilots from the previous regime. It's happened in the past, 25 years back, when you had the Soviet-trained pilots crossing over to the Taliban between 96 and 2001.
Yes.
The same thing could happen now as well, when that core of the American trained, pilots, American and Russian trained pilots could actually cross over to the Taliban and give them some kind of, air power, whether it is for flying their helicopters or the ground support aircraft and, light attack helicopters and such, and, these kind
yes.
of weapons that the Taliban would really need to kind of protect themselves, or indeed, inflict some kind of limited,
yes.
Air options against their neighbors. Shiv.
One final question, Air Marshal Ahluwalia. Even though the US has pulled out, sir, the Taliban appears to have powerful friends. They've got the Pakistanis, they've got the Chinese, who are calling them the benevolent new leaders, of Afghanistan. Would that in some way help in, reaching these objectives? I know there are much broader things to speak of, but since we're talking about air power here, you think China and Pakistan could play some kind of a role in allowing the Taliban to really harness and make use of this weaponry?
Certainly not, Shiv. I think every country has to look after its own security and its own threat perception. And I think Pakistan or China or any other neighboring countries of Afghanistan would like them to become more powerful and to have a great potential in terms of air power. That will not be beneficial to anybody. And I don't think they will get that kind of support that they so need or desire from any of these neighboring countries. The most important asset, which I think from yesterday I'm watching all the television shows, is that the people of Afghanistan themselves.
Yeah.
I think it is not easy to fathom how such a lot of territory was handed over literally on a platter to the Taliban.
True.
It obviously indicates that all the people in Afghanistan are not against the Taliban. There is a majority of people who are for Taliban, and that is how...
Or simply didn't have a choice, didn't think that they had a way out.
Yes, and the military apparatus had actually just disappeared.
Yeah.
It is an indication that the people are with Taliban.
And you
in
fact, you even had an indication from the US president, no less, yesterday, admitting, the shock over the swiftness with which everything simply disintegrated. So this is a story we're going to look at very closely. Air Marshal Ahluwalia and Sandeep, thank you very much for your time. This show coincided with the good news of that second C-17 with Indians landing back at Hindon. So I'm going to take our viewers there. But thank you, gentlemen, for joining me for the moment on this very important story. And remember, it's not just choppers and light attack aircraft. There is a capability that the Taliban have inherited because of the fleeing Americans that the Taliban couldn't have even hoped perhaps to have. And that is advanced surveillance drones. They've got those too now. Take a look at this report. What you're looking at is a Scan Eagle drone in the hands of an Afghan soldier. But this image is history because these drones have new owners. Found packed neatly in their boxes in Kunduz, these advanced surveillance drones are now in the hands of the Taliban. These images from the Kunduz airbase a few days ago, providing proof that the new rulers of Afghanistan are now in possession of an advanced surveillance drone capability. The Taliban has transported these Scan Eagle drones now to an unknown location where they will no doubt begin to figure how they are used. Let's first tell you a little bit about the Scan Eagle. The US-supplied drone is used for real-time surveillance and reconnaissance, capable of operating for long hours, even 24 hours or more, beaming back real-time imagery in day or night conditions in high definition with infrared video as well. Such drones, if integrated properly into the unfolding military machine, will provide the Taliban with an unprecedented capability, one that allows the Taliban to keep constant visual tabs on troubled parts of Afghanistan, monitor movements of enemy factions and alliances, and keep a watch on the border areas. Something the Taliban has so far only managed to do with human assets or very basic drones, like this Taliban hexacopter reportedly shot down in Afghanistan's Khost province recently. Apart from the capability, these drones falling into Taliban hands is a serious blow to the United States, which protects such technology with great care. The Scan Eagle may not be the most advanced of drones, but its availability now to the Taliban's friends, theoretically, including China, will be a source of deep discomfort for Washington. The Scan Eagles in Taliban hands also becomes representative of the billions of dollars of US public money meant for the protection of Afghanistan, now falling into the hands of Islamic extremists and terrorists. Bureau Report, India Today.